overpopulation and pollution are slowly destroying Earth in the near future. Algae that have been bioengineered to grow on Mars are sent on unmanned probes by scientists looking for a new home. This algae produces an atmosphere that humans can breathe in for 20 years, but one day, suddenly, oxygen levels begin to drop. All nations pooled their resources in order to send the first manned mission to Mars, desperate to understand why. The ship, which is called Mars 1, is too big to launch from the planet's surface. So the crew takes a shuttle to the high-orbit space station for a launch in low gravity to begin their 6-month journey. The best scientists have come together to form this crew. Co-pilot Santen, Chief Scientist Chantilas, Pilot and Commander Bowman, Mechanical Systems Engineer Gallagher, Bioengineer Birchinal, and expert in terraforming Pettingill AME. A multi-purpose robot that will serve as their surface navigator on Mars is also coming with them. The helium nuclear power cell that powers AME will keep it going for some time. The crew finds a variety of activities to keep them busy when they aren't working for the next 6 months. Chantilas likes to talk a lot about philosophy and religion, explaining that because science has failed him, he needs answers to some big questions. Gallagher walks on Bowman in the shower and pretends it was an accident because he has a lot of fun flirting with Bowman. Additionally, he is in charge of Amy's pre-launch diagnostics checks. Because Pettingill requests a demonstration of the robot and wants to see it in action, Gallagher decides to prank Pettingill. Before giving Amy a marker and instructing it to attack his friend, he switches it from navigation mode to military mode. Then, Amy quickly stabs Pettingill to demonstrate how deadly it is. At some point, they get so used to being up there that Gallagher and Birchinal start making alcohol in the lab. When Bowman finds out, she initially scolds them, but she eventually joins them and the entire crew drinks together. The ship finally reaches Mars orbit on day 182. A gamma burst hits the crew as they begin their search for HAB-1, the automated habitat where the probes were supposed to grow algae. While she monitors the system, Commander Bowman sends the remaining crew members to the safe area, where they wait for the burst to pass. They discover shortly thereafter that the primary power unit is offline, requiring them to immediately depart from Mars and search for HAB-1 on foot. Bowman tries to turn on the extension vehicle's auto-launch system when the crew is ready, but it doesn't work because there isn't enough power, so she has to stay behind and do it by hand. Santen has difficulty landing and the vehicle has a clumsy launch, necessitating the removal of their landing gear and AME. He does get the airbags to release, but when they finally land on Mars, the vehicle still rolls down a hill and suffers significant damage. In the meantime, Bowman discovers that the ship's automated fire extinguishers have been destroyed by the burst, but there are electrical fires in several areas. Before opening a hatch, she straps herself to the emergency evacuation unit and rushes to grab the manual extinguisher to put out the smallest fire. The ship's fire is extinguished by the vacuum in this manner. After that, she works to restore the primary power supply. Because Chantilas was hurt when he landed on Mars, the crew must assist him in getting out of the vehicle. They can't get around the planet and find HAB-1 without getting lost without Amy, and both the radio and the science kit are broken. They will be able to find the right path if Gallagher recalls that he has panoramic photos that the probes used to send and compares them to the terrain. Chantilas asks the crew to leave him there because he has considered all of his philosophical questions and accepts his fate. Even if HAB-1 has a medical unit, he won't make it in time because his spleen has ruptured and there is serious internal bleeding. Chantilas admits that he is pleased that at least he got to see Mars after the crew bids them farewell. Amy emerges from the landing gear nearby and dispatches a drone to locate the crew. Bowman regains communication on the ship, but she is unable to communicate with the guys because their radio is broken. After that, she uses the scanners to locate HAB-1, only to discover negative news. She must call Houston to inform them that the crew will not survive. Birchinal is surprised to see no evidence of the algae as the crew walks under the scorching sun. Even if it had all perished, there should still be some traces. They discover that HAB-1 has been completely destroyed when they finally reach it. Since the structures had been constructed to withstand even tornadoes, this could not have been caused by the weather, which indicates that something happened here. The guys are forced to accept their fate because there is no food, water, or air. The crew talks about the people they left behind and there are only 16 minutes left of oxygen. Pettingill wants Santen to take some responsibility anyway, so he decides to reminisce near a cliff edge and points out that at least his piloting skills aren't to blame. As a result, a fight breaks out, and Pettingill hits Santen, sending him plunging off the cliff. Pettingill informs the others that Santen ended the situation for himself when he returns to the others. Their oxygen tanks run out a few minutes later, and Gallagher decides to blow out of his helmet. However, Gallagher is surprised to learn that he is able to breathe normally. Pettingill and Birchnell confirm that they can breathe as well, but they cannot explain why, following his lead. In the meantime, Bowman receives a message from Houston informing her that they will assist her in taking off before the ship's orbit fails in 31 hours. Because ignition systems cannot function, Bowman is skeptical. The man returns to HAB-1 to search for anything useful and discovers a broken radio. This makes Birchnell realize that they should look for the radio on the small rover Earth sent in 1997. They decide to leave in the morning to avoid freezing because it's 4 kilometers away and night is coming. Amy is finally able to locate them after they start a fire with the remaining rocket fuel from HB-1. Gallagher examines the robot and discovers that it is quite damaged, but the navigational device still functions. Accordingly, he should turn off Amy and remove the device before it also breaks. When Amy hears this, he retaliates violently and pushes the men away when they attempt to disable it. Birchnell tries to hit it with a pipe, but Amy breaks it up and hits the man, breaking one of his ribs. Amy then flees, reuniting with its drone as it travels. The robot jammed the transmitters to prevent the others from knowing where it is. And Gallagher explains to the others that Amy is employing guerrilla tactics and will return later to kill them one by one. With Houston's help, Bowman fixes the ignition systems in the morning, but she tells them she'll try to save the crew before returning. The guys get up, urinate as a joke to claim the territory for humanity, and then they look for the old rover. Gallagher takes its radio and adjusts the frequency to match the new one as soon as they locate it. However, no matter how hard they try, they are unable to get in touch with Bowman. Bowman is ready to leave for Earth after 2 hours of unsuccessful attempts, and Gallagher is about to throw away the radio. However, Houston immediately connects the rover to the ship after spotting the rover's frequency. When Bowman finally speaks with the guys, she tells them the whole story and says she will find a way to save them. A few seconds later, Bowman gets in touch with the guys once more to tell them about the Russian rock probe Cosmos, which has been around for 30 years but never launched. They'll have to fix it, but it's their only chance, and they only have 19 hours before Bowman has to return to Earth. Additionally, Bowman must keep working on some repairs, which means she will remain on the dark side in a state of blackout and will not speak with them again until later. Bowman remembers the time they almost kissed a few weeks ago when Gallagher tells her he's glad to hear her voice again before he hangs up. The men begin their approach to the probe without realizing that Amy is following them. Pettingill suddenly sees something moving in the distance, but the others are unable to see it, so they tell him to keep moving. A group of alien insects begins to move in the same direction nearby. Bowman calls Gallagher to have a private conversation while he checks on the crew later. Before returning to her work, she informs him that the probe can only accommodate 2 people and apologizes. When Birchnell's body begins to feel weak as a result of the broken rib, Gallagher focuses on assisting him in walking rather than telling the others about this problem. The trio is forced to hide inside an opening on a hill when a significant ice storm threatens them at night. Amy is having trouble getting any closer because of the storm. The men discuss the fact that they only have a short amount of time to locate the probe, and Gallagher finally admits that only 2 of them can return. Pettingill doesn't believe him when he says he will stay behind because he thinks Gallagher thinks he killed Santon. Birchnell enters, stating that he does not trust him as well and confirming that he does intend to abandon Pettingill. After a few hours, Bowman receives a message from Houston instructing her to return due to the crew's inability to survive the storm. She tries to get in touch with the crew but can't. It turns out that Pettingill took the radio and ran away after Gallagher and Birchnell went to sleep in order to get to the probe first. Amy sneaks up on him now that he is outside and exposed, killing him in a matter of seconds. Birchnell and Gallagher emerge from the cave to retrieve the radio after observing this on the suit communications. Birchnell is shocked to see algae on their way to Pettingill's body. He doesn't know why it only grows here. While Birchnell examines the body in greater detail, unaware that the bugs are operating within the suit, Gallagher retrieves the radio and attempts to contact Bowman. Birchnell tries to cut the suit open with a torch lighter, but this sets off the tiny aliens. When Birchnell finally spots them, he realizes that they are nematodes that have been eating the algae as he captures 2 of them. The nematodes eat the plant and produce oxygen in return, acting like trees, which explains why the plant suddenly started to die out. The men discover more algae as they walk. Due to his broken rib, Birchnell begins to drip blood from his mouth, drawing the bugs' attention, who then attack him by eating through his suit. Birchnell throws Gallagher his suit so that he can get more air for the trip, and he also gives him the tube with the bugs so that Earth can study them and make cleaner air. After that, Birchnell uses the torch to drag all of the tiny aliens down with him, while he waits for the insects to cover his body. Bowman calls Gallagher to check on him after seeing everything from the ship. Gallagher admits that he is ready to give up after explaining what happened, but Bowman convinces him otherwise by pointing out that the crew's sacrifices cannot be wasted. Gallagher regains his composure and flees until he locates the probe, at which point he immediately begins working under Bowman's direction. The system works, but Gallagher is stuck here because the probe's battery has died. Gallagher tells Bowman that he misses her and should have kissed her, believing this to be the end. Bowman concurs, and she begins getting ready to return while weeping. When Gallagher sees the AME drone at that exact moment, he realizes that it has batteries that he could steal. He immediately began using the probe to set a trap, allowing AME to get as close as it wanted. Gallagher dodges the robot's attack by releasing a fuel-soaked airbag that catches AME and allows him to light it on fire just as the robot is about to go for his heart. When AME's self-destruct system kicks in, Gallagher rushes to remove the battery and gets out of the way before the drone crashes into AME, causing it to explode. After that, Gallagher completes the repairs to the probe and launches it with him inside to pursue Bowman, who is getting ready to leave for Earth. The probe loses power in the middle of the way, which is unfortunate, but Bowman sees it and uses the spacewalk rope to get off the ship and get the probe back. As a result of the lack of power and oxygen in the probe, Gallagher is unconscious when Bowman opens it. Bowman takes off Gallagher's suit and starts performing CPR until Gallagher wakes up, at which point he asks her to take them home with him. After they looked over the information about the insects, Bowman receives a message from Houston sometime later. It appears that Gallagher is now regarded as a hero by everyone on Earth. According to Gallagher, he has also brought a rock from Mars to give to Shantila's granddaughter as a keepsake. Bowman finally gives Gallagher a kiss, realizing that they only have 6 months to get to know each other better before they reach Earth.